The diplomatic vessel Horizon floated silently near Kepler Junction, a massive space station that served as neutral ground for different alien species. Inside the observation deck, Lieutenant Danny Cole pressed his face close to the window, watching as an enormous ship approached. His heart beat faster with each passing second. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Vrax Collective, and everyone knew how important it was. Danny was just a communications officer, young and relatively inexperienced. He had only been in space for 2 years, but he understood what was at stake. Humanity needed allies. The galaxy was vast and full of species that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Humans were the newcomers, and many older civilizations looked down on them. The Vrax ship was unlike anything Danny had ever seen. It was built from some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its hull, glowing with a soft purple luminescence. As it docked with the station, Danny felt a tremor run through the floor beneath his feet. These aliens were clearly powerful. Ambassador Patricia Vance stood nearby, reviewing her notes one final time. She was a stern woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had negotiated treaties with 3 other alien species and never failed to secure favorable terms for Earth. Captain Greg Harris, commander of the Horizon, stood beside her with his arms crossed. His expression was unreadable, but Danny could see the tension in his shoulders. Also present were Lieutenant Amy Brooks, head of security, and Dr. Helen Murphy, the ship's chief xenobiologist. Dr. Murphy looked excited rather than nervous. She had studied what little information humanity had about the Vrax and couldn't wait to meet them in person. The station's communication system crackled to life. A deep voice, translated by the universal language software, announced that the Vrax delegation was ready to meet. Ambassador Vance straightened her jacket and led the group toward the grand hall where first contact meetings traditionally took place. The hall was enormous, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. The ceiling stretched high above them, and the walls were made of some transparent material that showed the stars beyond. Danny followed behind the main delegation, carrying a data pad that contained talking points and cultural notes. When the doors at the far end opened, Danny's breath caught in his throat. The Vrax were giants. The shortest among them stood at least 10 feet tall, while their leader towered at 12 feet. They had 4 arms, 2 on each side, and their skin appeared to be made of crystal that shifted colors in the light. Their faces were angular with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When they moved, their bodies made a soft, chiming sound, like wind through glass. The Vrax leader stepped forward. His crystalline skin was streaked with crimson, and he wore some kind of ceremonial armor that covered his chest. Dr. Murphy had explained that color patterns indicated rank and role in Vrax society, but Danny couldn't remember all the details now. He was too overwhelmed by the sheer presence of these beings. Ambassador Vance walked forward confidently. She had dealt with species larger than humans before. She stopped at what she considered an appropriate distance and extended her hand, palm open, for a handshake. It was a gesture of peace and greeting that humans used with most species, but something went wrong immediately. The Vrax leader's skin flashed from its reddish tone to bright orange. His 4 eyes narrowed, and he made a sound that the translation software rendered as a roar. The other Vrax behind him shifted, their skin colors changing rapidly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Captain Harris stepped forward, his hand moving instinctively toward his sidearm. Lieutenant Brooks did the same. The Vrax responded by spreading their forearms wide, a gesture that looked distinctly threatening. Ambassador Vance tried to recover. She spoke quickly, explaining that the handshake was a gesture of friendship in human culture. But the Vrax leader, whose name the translator gave as Thraxzul, was not appeased. He spoke in his booming voice, and even through the translation, his anger was clear. He said that humanity had insulted the Vrax by offering a warrior's challenge grip instead of a proper greeting of peace. He said that humans were clearly aggressive and primitive, focused only on shows of strength. He mentioned that his delegation had come prepared to share art and culture, but the humans had only prepared documents about military cooperation and trade agreements. Ambassador Vance tried to explain, but Thraxzul raised one massive hand to silence her. He declared that the Vrax Collective would not pursue an alliance with humanity. Furthermore, he would recommend to the Galactic Assembly that human space be quarantined until humanity matured enough to interact peacefully with other species. The words hit Danny like a physical blow. This meeting had been planned for months. Earth had invested enormous resources in preparing for it, and now, because of a simple misunderstanding, everything was falling apart. The Vrax delegation turned to leave. Their footsteps shook the floor as they walked toward the exit. Ambassador Vance stood frozen, her face pale. Captain Harris looked angry, while Lieutenant Brooks appeared ready for a fight that would never come. Dr. Murphy just looked sad. But Danny noticed something. As Thraxul reached the doorway, his crystalline skin changed color for just a moment. The angry orange faded, replaced by a deep blue that seemed to pulse from within. Danny remembered Dr. Murphy mentioning that blue indicated sadness in Vrax physiology. The giant alien paused for just a second, as if he wanted to turn around but then continued walking. The human delegation returned to the horizon in silence. No one knew what to say. They had failed spectacularly. Ambassador Vance went immediately to her quarters to begin writing reports. Captain Harris called a meeting with his senior staff. Dr. Murphy retreated to her laboratory to review her notes on Vrax culture, trying to understand what went wrong. Danny sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the Vrax ship still docked at the station. He couldn't stop thinking about that flash of blue in Thraxul's skin. The giant alien had been angry, yes, but also sad. Danny had the distinct impression that Thraxul hadn't wanted the meeting to fail any more than the humans had. He found Dr. Murphy later that evening. She was reviewing video footage of the meeting, watching it frame by frame. Danny asked her about the blue color he had seen. Dr. Murphy confirmed that blue indicated sadness or regret in Vrax emotional displays. She explained that Vrax skin color changes were involuntary, a biological response they couldn't control. It was one of the reasons Vrax were considered honest in galactic diplomacy. They literally couldn't hide their feelings. Danny shared his observation with Captain Harris the next day. The captain was kind but dismissive. He said that even if Thraxul felt sad about the failed meeting, it didn't change anything. The Vrax had made their decision. Earth would have to deal with the consequences. But Danny couldn't let it go. He checked the station records and learned that Thraxul's personal shuttle was still docked at Kepler Junction, undergoing repairs. The giant alien hadn't left yet. He was somewhere on the station. Danny made a decision that would change everything. He went to Ambassador Vance and asked permission to deliver a formal written apology to Thraxul. The ambassador refused immediately. She said that any further contact might make the situation worse. Earth's diplomatic corps would handle this through official channels. That night, Danny lay in his bunk unable to sleep. He thought about the blue flash in Thraxul's skin. He thought about how the giant alien had paused at the doorway. He thought about how both species seemed to want the same thing but couldn't understand each other. Finally, Danny made up his mind. He got out of bed and went to the small garden section of the horizon where various Earth plants were kept for psychological comfort during long space voyages. He found a small bonsai tree, carefully maintained by one of the crew members. Danny borrowed it, leaving a note promising to return it. He also wrote a letter by hand on actual paper, something rarely used in an age of digital communication. In simple words, he explained that he was sorry for the misunderstanding. He wrote that humans wanted to learn about Vrax culture, not challenge or threaten them. He described what the bonsai tree meant on Earth, a symbol of patience, care, and growth over time. As the ship's lights dimmed for night cycle, Danny Cole slipped out of the horizon through an auxiliary airlock. He carried the small plant and his handwritten letter, heading toward the section of Kepler Junction where the Vrax shuttle was docked. His hands trembled and fear made his stomach tight, but he kept walking anyway. He had no authority to do this. He would probably face severe consequences. But Danny had realized something important. Sometimes the bravest thing a person could do was simply reach out to another person, even when that person was a 12-foot-tall crystalline giant who could crush you with one hand. The corridors of Kepler Junction were dimly lit during the night cycle. Danny walked slowly, trying to keep his breathing steady. His footsteps echoed in the empty passages. Most of the station's inhabitants were either sleeping or in their quarters. The sections near the Varax hangar were particularly deserted. Most species gave the intimidating giants a wide berth. Danny's hands gripped the small bonsai tree pot tightly. The letter was folded in his jacket pocket. With each step, his mind offered him 1,000 reasons to turn back. He could get in serious trouble for this unauthorized contact. The Vrax might consider his approach another insult. Thraxul could easily hurt him without meaning to, simply because of the size difference. But Danny kept walking. He reached the massive doors of the hangar bay where Thraxul's shuttle was docked. The doors were enormous, sized for beings 3 times his height. A smaller access panel was built into the main door for normal-sized species. Danny pressed his hand against the entry pad, half expecting it to be locked. But the door slid open with a soft hiss. The hangar was cavernous. Dim lights cast long shadows across the floor. Thraxul's shuttle sat in the center, a sleek vessel that looked like it was carved from a single piece of dark crystal, and there, sitting cross-legged near his ship, was Thraxul himself. Even sitting down, the giant was taller than Danny standing up. His crystalline skin glowed softly with a melancholy blue color. Around him were scattered what looked like data tablets, much larger than the ones humans used. Images flickered across their surfaces, showing scenes Danny couldn't quite make out from this distance. Danny cleared his throat. The sound was tiny in the vast space, but Thraxul's 4 eyes snapped toward him instantly. The giant's skin flashed orange with alarm, then shifted to red with anger. Thraxul rose to his full 12 feet in one smooth motion. When he spoke, his voice shook Danny's chest like thunder. "Why does a human dare approach me?" The translation came through Danny's communication device, but the raw power of Thraxul's actual voice needed no translation. "Did your ambassador send you to make more insults?" Danny's legs felt weak. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he had come this far. He forced himself to speak. "No, sir. Nobody sent me. I came on my own." His voice shook, but he continued. "I came to apologize." Thraxul's skin flickered between red and orange. "Your ambassador already attempted apologies through official channels. We rejected them." "I know," Danny said, "but I'm not apologizing on behalf of my government. I'm apologizing as one person to another person. We humans, we don't understand your culture. We made mistakes, but we want to learn. I want to learn." Danny stepped forward slowly and held out the small bonsai tree. In his other hand, he held the letter. "This is a plant from Earth. We call it a bonsai. It takes many years of patient care to grow. It represents patience and growth, and the idea that beautiful things take time to develop. I thought maybe it could represent what I hope for between our peoples." Thraxul stared down at the tiny human holding an even tinier tree. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence. For a long moment, absolute silence filled the hangar. Danny's arms began to ache from holding them up, but he didn't move. Finally, Thraxul's skin began to shift. The angry red faded. A soft green color spread across his crystalline body, a shade Danny had never seen before. Slowly, carefully, Thraxul lowered himself back to a sitting position. One massive hand, larger than Danny's entire torso, reached out and gently took the small pot. His 4-fingered hand could easily crush it, but his touch was remarkably delicate. Thraxul examined the tiny tree carefully. Then he looked at Danny and gestured to the floor beside him. "Sit," he said. The word was still deep and powerful, but no longer angry. Danny sat down, feeling incredibly small next to the giant. Thraxul placed the bonsai carefully on one of his data tablets. Then he picked up another tablet and pressed several buttons. An image appeared, projected in the air between them. It showed a city unlike anything Danny had ever seen. Massive crystalline towers reached toward a purple sky, but the city was in ruins. Buildings collapsed, streets empty. "This was Vrax Prime's capital city before the plague," Thraxul said. His voice was quieter now, almost gentle despite its depth. 3 billion Vrax lived there. How fewer than 1 million remain? Danny's breath caught. He had known the Vrax suffered some kind of disaster, but he hadn't realized the scale. Thraxul continued, showing image after image. Hospitals overwhelmed with patients. Mass funeral ceremonies where thousands of crystalline bodies were honored at once. Scientists working desperately to find a cure. The plague lasted 5 years. By the time our doctors developed a cure, 60% of our population was gone. "I'm so sorry," Danny whispered. Thraxul's skin pulsed with deep blue. "We reached out to the galaxy for help. Species after species turned us away. Some feared the plague would spread. though we proved it could not affect non-crystalline biology. Others simply did not want to risk their resources helping a dying species. We learned that most civilizations in this galaxy only respect power and size. Compassion is rare. He changed the projection. Now it showed the Vrax delegation preparing for their meeting with humanity. Danny could see Thraxul and other Vrax loading crates onto their ship. The crates were filled with art, musical instruments, and books. "We came to meet humanity with hope," Thraxul said. "We brought our best art, our finest music, our most moving poetry. We wanted to share beauty with you, but your delegation brought military cooperation agreements, trade contracts, defense pacts." His skin flickered between blue and orange. "Your ambassador extended her hand in what we recognized as a warrior's challenge grip. Everything about your approach reminded us of every other species that rejected us." Danny felt shame wash over him. "We didn't know. We thought we were being diplomatic. The handshake, it's a gesture of friendship for us." "I understand that now," Thraxul said. "But in the moment I could only see another aggressive species more interested in power than understanding." He was quiet for a moment. "Yet you came here alone, without authority, bringing a gift that speaks of patience and growth. Why?" Danny thought carefully before answering. "Because I saw your skin turn blue when you left the meeting. Dr. Murphy told us that blue means sadness for your people and that you can't control your skin colors. So I knew you were sad about what happened. And I thought, if you were sad, then maybe you didn't want the meeting to fail any more than we did." For the first time, Thraxul's skin shifted to a warm gold color. "You are observant for one so young." "I'm 26, Danny said. "Young," Thraxul confirmed. "I am 93 years old. Among my people I am considered to be in my middle years." He gestured to the scattered tablets around them. "I am a warrior, yes, but I am also a historian and a poet. These are the projects I work on when I am not serving my government." Danny's eyes widened. "You're a poet?" Thraxul's skin brightened with golden highlights. "Why does this surprise you?" "I guess I expected warriors to only care about fighting." "A common misconception," Thraxul said. "The greatest Vrax warriors are also scholars. We believe that true strength includes gentleness, that the ability to destroy makes the choice of peace more meaningful." They talked through the night. Thraxul showed Danny images of Vrax culture. He explained their customs, their beliefs, their art. He played recordings of Vrax music which sounded like crystal chimes mixed with deep drum beats. He read poetry, which the translator struggled to capture, but Danny found beautiful nonetheless. In return, Danny told Thraxul about Earth. He described oceans and forests, cities and deserts. He talked about human art and music. He pulled up images on his datapad showing everything from ancient cave paintings to modern digital art. "Humans are younger than Vrax," Danny explained. "We've only been in space for about 50 years. We're still learning how to interact with other species. We make lots of mistakes. But you try to learn from them," Thraxul observed. "You came here to understand, not to defend your people's actions." "I want to understand," Danny said. "I think that's more important than defending what we did wrong." As the station's artificial dawn began, light slowly filling the hangar, Thraxul said something that would change Danny's life. "I would like to meet with you again, Danny Cole, but I must be honest. My government expects me to recommend that humanity be avoided. I'm supposed to file my report tomorrow." Danny felt panic rising. "Isn't there anything we can do?" Thraxul's skin swirled with mixed colors, green and blue and gold all at once. "Perhaps, if we can show my government that humans are capable of true understanding and compassion, not just military posturing, they might reconsider. But this would take time." "How much time?" "I do not know. My shuttle repairs will be complete in 2 weeks. I must return home then." 2 weeks? Danny's mind raced. "Then we use those 2 weeks. We meet, we talk, we learn from each other. And maybe by the end we'll have something to show both our governments." Thraxul studied the small human for a long moment. Then his skin glowed with warm gold and peaceful green. "Very well, Danny Cole. We will try." They parted as the hangar bay began to grow brighter with the new day. Danny walked back toward the horizon, exhausted but strangely. Ambassador Vance was furious. She stood in the conference room of the horizon with her arms crossed, glaring at Danny like he was a misbehaving child. Captain Harris stood nearby, maintaining a neutral expression. Dr. Murphy was also present, looking more curious than angry. "Lieutenant Cole, Do you understand the severity of what you've done? Vance's voice was cold and sharp. You conducted unauthorized diplomatic contact with a foreign power. You could have triggered an interstellar incident. You could have gotten yourself killed. You certainly violated about a dozen regulations. Yes, ma'am, Danny said. He had prepared himself for this. But I also learned more about Vrax culture in one night than we've learned in 6 months of preparation. That's not the point, Vance snapped. Actually, Ambassador, maybe it is the point. Dr. Murphy spoke up from where she sat at the conference table. She had a data pad in front of her showing video footage. Station security recorded Lieutenant Cole's conversation with Thrax Zul. The audio quality isn't perfect, but I've been reviewing it all morning. The information he gathered is invaluable. Vance turned to her. Explain. Dr. Murphy activated a holographic display. It showed Thrax Zul explaining about the plague, about the Vrax reaching out for help, about their culture valuing art and scholarship. The Vrax aren't aggressive expansionists. They're a traumatized civilization trying to find their place in a galaxy that rejected them in their darkest hour. Every action they took in our meeting makes sense now. Captain Harris leaned forward. So what are you suggesting, Doctor? I'm suggesting that Lieutenant Cole did what none of us thought to do. He approached them as people, not as diplomatic targets. He showed empathy instead of strategy. Dr. Murphy looked at Danny. He also earned Thrax Zul's trust, which is something we desperately need right now. Ambassador Vance was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she sat down heavily in a chair. Even if I accept that Cole's actions produced valuable intelligence, he still violated direct orders. I told him not to approach Thrax Zul. You did, ma'am, Danny acknowledged. And I understand if there are consequences. But I'd like permission to continue meeting with Thrax Zul. He agreed to talk with me over the next 2 weeks, before his shuttle repairs are complete. If we can show the Vrax that humans are willing to learn and understand them, maybe we can salvage this relationship. Vance rubbed her temples. She looked tired. This is highly irregular. You're a communications officer, not a diplomat. Maybe that's exactly why it worked, Dr. Murphy said gently. Diplomacy failed because both sides were too focused on protocols and procedures. Lieutenant Cole succeeded because he was genuine. The ambassador looked at Captain Harris. What's your assessment, Captain? Harris considered carefully. Cole showed initiative and courage. His instincts were good. I think we should let him continue, but with supervision. Dr. Murphy should work with him analyzing everything he learns about Vrax culture. After what felt like an eternity, Vance nodded slowly. Very well. Lieutenant Cole, you're officially assigned as cultural liaison to the Vrax delegation. Dr. Murphy will supervise your work. You will report everything you learn directly to me. And Cole, your career depends on this succeeding. If it fails, you'll be lucky to get assigned to a cargo transport for the rest of your service. Am I clear? Crystal. Clear, ma'am, Danny said, relief flooding through him. Over the next 2 weeks, Danny met with Thrax Zul every day. The meetings moved from the hangar to a neutral garden space on Kepler Junction. The station had several environments designed for different species, and the garden was a compromise between many atmospheres. Artificial sunlight streamed through transparent panels, and plants from a dozen worlds grew in careful sections. Danny brought Dr. Murphy to the second meeting. Thrax Zul's skin had flickered with alarm at first, but Danny explained that she was there to help understand, not to judge. The giant's colors settled to peaceful green once he began talking with her. Dr. Murphy asked thoughtful questions about Vrax biology, culture, and history. Thrax Zul appreciated her genuine curiosity. Each day, Danny learned more. He discovered that Vrax children were raised communally, with entire neighborhoods helping to care for young ones. He learned that Vrax warriors trained in combat arts not to prepare for war, but to develop discipline and respect for life. The philosophy was simple. Only those who understood how to take life could truly appreciate the value of preserving it. Thrax Zul showed Danny examples of Vrax poetry. The poems were complex, playing with crystal resonance frequencies that the translation software couldn't fully capture. But the emotions came through clearly: themes of loss, hope, community, and the search for meaning in difficult times. Our art became darker after the plague, Thraxul explained one afternoon. They sat together in the garden while Dr. Murphy took notes nearby. We lost so many artists, so many voices. Those of us who survived feel obligated to carry forward their legacy. Danny shared human culture in return. He played music from Earth on a portable speaker. Classical compositions by Mozart and Beethoven made Thraxul's skin shimmer with appreciation. Jazz confused him at first, then fascinated him. He found the improvisation similar to Vrak's poetry, where performers built on traditional structures while adding their own voice. When Danny played indigenous drumming from various Earth cultures, Thraxul stood up and began to move. His forearms wove patterns in the air, and his crystalline body chimed with each motion. Danny realized he was watching a traditional Vrak's dance. Among my people, we dance to connect with those who came before us, Thraxul explained when the music ended. Each movement honors an ancestor, a teacher, a friend lost to time. Danny showed films from Earth. Thraxul was particularly moved by stories of communities coming together during disasters. A documentary about people helping each other after an earthquake made his skin glow with deep blue sadness, mixed with golden appreciation. This is what we hope to find in the galaxy, Thraxul said quietly. People who help each other not because they must, but because they choose to. As the days passed, others on the station began to notice the unlikely friendship. Lieutenant Amy Brooks, the security chief, stopped by the garden one day during her patrol. She had been skeptical of Danny's approach, viewing Thraxul as a potential threat. But watching them sit together, sharing stories and laughing, her perspective shifted. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. Thraxul's skin flickered with surprise, but he gestured welcomingly with one of his 4 hands. "Please, sit." Amy sat down cautiously. "I wanted to apologize for my behavior during our first meeting. I was ready to fight you without understanding you." Thraxul's skin showed warm gold. "Your instinct was to protect your people. There is no shame in that. I appreciate your honesty now." They talked for an hour. Amy asked questions about Vrak's military traditions. Thraxul explained that Vrak's warriors saw themselves as protectors and scholars, not conquerors. In return, Amy shared her own background in Earth's military and her reasons for joining the space service. Word spread through the station. Other species began to watch the human and Vrak's interaction with interest. Some were curious, others skeptical. A reptilian trader named Sark, known for dealing in information and causing trouble, openly mocked the friendship. One day in the station's central market, Sark slithered up to where Danny was buying supplies. "I hear you've befriended the giant crystal monster," Sark said loudly, his forked tongue tasting the air. "Humans must be even more foolish than I thought." Danny ignored him and continued shopping. "The Vraks are dangerous," Sark continued, following him. "They're desperate. They'll use your friendship and then crush you when you're no longer useful." Before Danny could respond, a massive shadow fell over them both. Thraxul had entered the market. His skin flickered orange with anger, but his voice remained controlled. "Sark of the Reptius clan, I suggest you reconsider your words." Sark hissed, but held his ground. "I speak truth, not pleasant lies." "You speak ignorance," Thraxul said. His skin shifted to protective purple. "Danny Cole has shown more courage than any warrior your species has produced in the last century. He approached me when I was alone and angry, bringing only kindness and a desire to understand. He risked his career and possibly his life to bridge a gap between our peoples." Thraxul's 4 eyes focused on Sark with intensity. "That is not foolishness. That is the truest form of bravery. If you cannot see that, then you are the one who is blind." The market had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Sark realized he had pushed too far. He backed away slowly, then slithered off quickly. But the confrontation had an unexpected effect. Other species who witnessed it began to see Danny and Thraxul's friendship differently. Word spread through the station about the Vraks defending the human. A few days later, a merchant from the insectoid trill species approached Danny in the garden. "I heard what happened with Sark," she said, her mandibles clicking softly. I wanted to say that what you're doing is remarkable. Many species fear the Vrax, but you've shown they're people like anyone else. More beings started visiting the garden. Some just watched from a distance. Others worked up the courage to approach and talk. Thraxul handled each interaction with grace, his skin showing peaceful colors as he answered questions about his people. The emergency alarm woke Danny from a deep sleep. Red lights flashed in his quarters and the station's warning system blared through the speakers. He jumped out of bed, still wearing his sleep clothes, and grabbed his communication device. The message was clear. A major accident had occurred at a mining colony in the nearby asteroid belt. Danny rushed to the Horizon's bridge. Captain Harris was already there, along with Ambassador Vance and several crew members. The holographic display showed the disaster site. A mining operation had suffered a catastrophic collapse. 47 miners from multiple species were trapped deep underground. The station's emergency services were mobilized, but the news was bad. The collapse is too extensive, Captain Harris explained as Danny arrived. Standard rescue equipment can't handle debris of this size. The trapped miners have less than 12 hours of oxygen. Dr. Murphy arrived moments later, followed by Lieutenant Amy Brooks. Everyone gathered around the display, studying the situation. The collapsed mine was a maze of tunnels, most of them now blocked by massive boulders and twisted metal. The miners were trapped in several different pockets scattered throughout the complex. "Sir, I have an idea," Danny said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. Thraxul. His size and strength could be crucial here. With 4 arms, he could move debris that would take our equipment hours to clear. Captain Harris nodded slowly. "That's true. But would he be willing to help?" "There's only one way to find out," Danny said. He rushed off the bridge and through the station corridors. His bare feet slapped against the cold metal floor as he ran toward the Vrax hangar. Thraxul's shuttle was scheduled to depart in a few hours. The giant might already be preparing to leave. Danny burst through the hangar doors. Thraxul was there, loading supplies into his shuttle. His skin showed calm blue colors, but they immediately shifted to orange alarm when he saw Danny. "Danny Cole? What is wrong?" Between gasps for breath, Danny explained the situation. 47 beings trapped. "We need your help. Your strength could save them." Thraxul's skin rippled through several colors. Then it settled on determined gold. "Show me where." They rushed back together. On the bridge, Captain Harris looked surprised to see the giant Vrax, but quickly brought him up to speed. Thraxul studied the holographic display carefully with all 4 eyes. "I can help," Thraxul confirmed. "But we must move quickly." Within 30 minutes, a rescue shuttle was prepared. Danny, Thraxul, Dr. Murphy, and Lieutenant Amy Brooks boarded along with emergency equipment. The shuttle raced toward the asteroid where the mine was located. When they arrived at the disaster site, they found chaos. Emergency crews were trying to coordinate rescue efforts, but the on-scene commander, a human officer named Kyle Preston, looked overwhelmed. His face was streaked with dirt and sweat. Preston's expression changed to shock when he saw Thraxul emerge from the shuttle. "What is that thing doing here?" "That thing is here to help save lives," Amy Brooks said firmly. "His name is Thraxul, and he's stronger than any equipment we have." Preston shook his head. "Absolutely not. I can't authorize an unknown alien to participate in a sensitive rescue operation. It's too dangerous. What if he causes another collapse?" Danny stepped forward. "Commander, those miners are dying. Every minute we argue is a minute they lose oxygen." Thraxul is a trained warrior and scholar. He knows exactly what he's doing. "I don't care," Preston said stubbornly. "It's against safety regulations." Thraxul stood silently, his skin shifting to sad blue. He had expected this. It was the same reaction the Vrax faced everywhere in the galaxy. Fear and rejection. Danny made a split-second decision. "Then I'm going in with him. If you won't trust the Vrax, you'll have to stop a human crew member too. I take full responsibility for whatever happens." Amy Brooks looked at Danny, then at Thraxul, then at the mine entrance where people were dying. She stepped forward. "I'm going too." Preston sputtered protests, but Dr. Murphy cut him off. "Commander, if you refuse help that could save those miners and they die because of your stubbornness, how will you explain that to their families? These people are volunteering. Let them try." Preston knew he was beaten. "Fine. But if anything goes wrong, this is on all of you." They gathered equipment and headed into the collapsed mine. The entrance tunnel was dark and filled with dust. Emergency lights flickered weakly. The air smelled of rock dust and burnt metal. Thraxul had to crouch to fit through many of the passages. As they went deeper, the damage became worse. Massive boulders blocked paths. Support beams were twisted like paper. In some places, the tunnel ceiling had completely collapsed. Danny's helmet light swept across the destruction and he felt his heart sink. How could anyone survive in this? But Thraxul moved with confidence. His crystalline skin glowed softly, providing additional light. When they reached the first major blockage, a boulder that had to weigh several tons, Thraxul simply wrapped his forearms around it and lifted. The muscles in his arms, visible beneath his crystalline skin, flexed with effort. The boulder moved. They continued forward, working as a team. Thraxul moved the heavy debris. Amy used her tactical training to identify the safest paths. Dr. Murphy monitored air quality and structural stability. Danny coordinated with the surface team, keeping them updated on progress. The passages were treacherous. Toxic gas pockets bubbled up from cracks in the rock. The ground shifted constantly, threatening new collapses. At one point, a secondary cave-in began just as they passed through a tunnel. Rocks fell from above like deadly rain. Thraxul reacted instantly. He spread his forearms wide and braced himself against the tunnel walls. His crystalline body formed a living bridge over Danny and Amy. Rocks slammed into his back and shoulders. His skin cracked with sharp sounds like breaking glass. Blue fluid seeped from the cracks, but Thraxul held firm until the collapse stopped. "Are you okay?" Danny asked urgently when the rocks stopped falling. Thraxul's skin showed pain colors, but he nodded. "I will survive. We must continue." They pushed forward. Finally, they reached the first pocket of trapped miners. Danny called out and voices answered weakly from behind a wall of debris. "We're here. Help is coming." Working together, they cleared the blockage. 5 miners stumbled out, coughing and exhausted. They were from the stout Durham species, roughly humanoid but broader and shorter. Their eyes widened when they saw Thraxul. "It's okay," Danny said quickly. "He's here to help." The Durham miners looked at each other uncertainly, but they were too grateful to be rescued to argue. Amy led them back toward the surface while Danny, Dr. Murphy, and Thraxul continued deeper into the mine. They found more miners in different pockets. Each rescue was a careful operation requiring Thraxul's strength, Amy's tactical skills, and Danny's coordination. By the time they reached the deepest pocket, they had saved 34 miners. But 13 remained trapped in the most dangerous section. The final pocket was in a chamber that had almost completely collapsed. The entrance was so unstable that any vibration could trigger a total cave-in. The trapped miners included humans, insectoid Trill, gaseous Effery in protective suits, and a Durham engineer named Pete Crawford. Pete aimed a mining tool at them when they approached. He was injured, his leg trapped under a beam, but his eyes were alert and frightened. "Stay back. If you cause another collapse, we're all dead." "Pete, listen to me," Danny said calmly. "I'm Lieutenant Danny Cole from the human vessel Horizon. We're here to get you out. This is Thraxul of the Vrax Collective. He saved everyone else, and he can save you too." Pete looked at the giant crystalline being with fear. "I've heard stories about Vrax. They're violent. They're dangerous." Thraxul's skin showed gentle colors despite his injuries. "I understand your fear. My people have a reputation we did not earn, but please let me help you. I came here for one reason only, to save lives." Amy held up her suit camera. "Look, Pete. This footage shows Thraxul shielding us from a collapse with his own body. His skin is cracked and bleeding. He's injured and exhausted, but he kept going because people needed help. Does that sound like a monster to you?" Pete watched the footage. He saw Thraxul protecting Danny and Amy. He saw the giant carefully lifting boulders, gently helping injured miners. His expression slowly changed. He lowered the mining tool. "Okay," Pete said quietly. "Okay, I trust you." Working together became crucial. Thraxul's strength combined with Pete's engineering knowledge created an effective team. Pete directed which supports to reinforce and which debris to remove first. Thraxul followed his instructions exactly, using his forearms with incredible precision. Slowly, carefully, they evacuated the miners one by one. The chamber remained stable despite everyone's fears. Finally, only Pete remained, still trapped under the beam that pinned his leg. The situation was critical. The beam was part of the chamber's structural support. Removing it could trigger the total collapse that Pete had warned about. They had minutes at best. Dr. Murphy calculated angles and pressure points. If we remove the beam and immediately support the ceiling, we might have enough time to get Pete out before everything comes down. It's too dangerous, Pete said. Save yourselves. I'm already injured. Don't risk everyone for one person. No, Thraxul said firmly. His skin blazed with determined gold. We do. The medical bay on Kepler Junction was filled with activity. Doctors from multiple species worked on the rescued miners, treating injuries and exhaustion. In a special section designed for large beings, Thraxul lay on a reinforced medical bed while Vrax's medical specialist tended to his cracked crystalline skin. The specialists had arrived on an emergency medical ship within hours of hearing about the rescue. Danny sat in a chair beside the bed, refusing to leave despite his own exhaustion. His feet were cut and bruised from running through the mine barefoot, but he barely noticed. He watched as the Vrax doctors carefully sealed the cracks in Thraxul's skin with some kind of liquid crystal compound. You should rest, Danny Cole, Thraxul said. His voice was weaker than usual, but his skin showed peaceful blue and green colors. I will recover. Our bodies heal well. I'm not leaving, Danny said firmly. You didn't leave us in that mine. I'm not leaving you now. One of the Vrax doctors, a female named Krinzara, looked at Danny with interest. Her skin showed curious yellow patterns. You are the human who befriended Thraxul, the one we have heard so much about. He befriended me first, Danny said. I just had the courage to talk to him. Krinzara's skin brightened with warm colors. That took great bravery. Most species fear us. She continued working on Thraxul's injuries. I am from the Vrax Council's medical division. We received full reports of the rescue. Thraxul's actions have caused much discussion among our leadership. Thraxul's skin flickered with surprise. What kind of discussion? The good kind, Krinzara said. But we will speak of it later. First, you must heal. Over the next few days, the aftermath of the rescue played out in unexpected ways. The miners who had been saved spoke to anyone who would listen about what Thraxul had done. Pete Crawford gave an interview to the station's news service, showing his injuries and explaining how the Vrax giant had saved his life. I was ready to die down there, Pete said in the recording. But Thraxul wouldn't accept that. He put his own life at risk for strangers, for people who had feared him moments before. That's not the action of a monster. That's a hero. The story spread beyond Kepler Junction. News services across the galaxy picked it up. For the first time, many species were seeing the Vrax in a different light, not as intimidating giants to be feared, but as people capable of compassion and sacrifice. Ambassador Vance received a communication from Earth's government. They had reviewed the cultural exchange proposal and approved it. The rescue had convinced them that cooperation with the Vrax could benefit everyone. Earth wanted to move forward with building a relationship. More importantly, the Vrax Council also sent a message. They wished to reopen negotiations with humanity. Thraxul's actions, combined with the detailed cultural reports that Danny and Dr. Murphy had compiled, had shifted opinion among the Vrax leadership. Many who had wanted isolation now saw hope in working with species who showed genuine understanding, but not everyone was happy. The same faction in the Galactic Assembly that had always opposed human expansion saw the Human-Vrax alliance as a threat. Representatives from several species, including Sark's people, began working to undermine the relationship. They spread rumors and created obstacles. Danny didn't care about galactic politics. He cared that his friend was healing and that their efforts had meant something. On the 5th day after the rescue, Thraxul was finally cleared to leave medical care. His skin still showed some cracks, but they were healing well. They met in the garden one more time. The place had become special to both of them. The bonsai tree sat between them, healthy and green. Thraxul had continued caring for it even while recovering. My government wants me to lead the first Vrax delegation to Earth, Thraxul said. His skin showed nervous colors mixed with hope. They want to see if this cultural exchange can truly work. That's wonderful, Danny said. And your government has requested that you serve as the primary liaison officer. You would split your time between Earth and the Vrax homeworld, helping both sides understand each other. Danny felt his heart race with excitement. Really? They want me to do that? You built this bridge, Danny Cole. It is only right that you help maintain it. Thraxul's skin glowed with warm gold. But I must warn you, there will be challenges. Some of my people are still bitter about past rejections. Some of your people will fear us because of our size. The Galactic Assembly has factions that want us to fail. I know, Danny said, but we'll face those challenges together. That's what friends do. Thraxul's skin blazed with every color of joy. Yes, friends. Lieutenant Amy Brooks joined them in the garden later. She brought news that the formal exchange program was being organized. A small group of humans would visit the Vrax homeworld while Thraxul's group came to Earth. Scientists, engineers, artists, and cultural specialists from both species would live and work together for 6 months. They want volunteers who understand what this is really about, Amy explained. People who can look past differences and build genuine connections. Danny, Dr. Murphy is going. I volunteered too. Captain Harris approved my transfer. Danny grinned. We're really doing this. We're going to make it work. The departure ceremony was held 1 week later. 2 ships prepared to launch from Kepler Junction. One carried the human delegation headed to the Vrax homeworld. The other would take Thraxul and his group to Earth. The station's main concourse was packed with beings from dozens of species who had come to watch. The rescue had made Danny and Thraxul famous throughout the station. Many wanted to see the friendship that had changed so much. Pete Crawford was there, walking with a cane but healing well. The other rescued miners gathered around him. Many of them had asked to be part of future exchange programs with the Vrax. Seeing Thraxul's courage had changed how they viewed the giant species. Even Commander Preston came, looking humbled. He approached Thraxul and offered a formal apology for his initial refusal to accept help. Thraxul accepted graciously, his skin showing forgiving colors. Ambassador Vance stood on a raised platform to address the crowd. Today marks a new chapter in human history. We are building an alliance based not on military might or economic benefit, but on genuine understanding and friendship. This is possible because one young officer had the courage to reach across a divide and see a person where others saw only a giant. She gestured to Danny. Lieutenant, Danny Cole showed us that true courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act despite fear. He approached Thraxul when others would not. He listened when others would not. He trusted when others would not. And in doing so, he built a bridge between our peoples. The crowd applauded. Danny felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. He had never wanted to be the center of attention. He had just wanted to do the right thing. Thraxul placed one massive hand gently on Danny's shoulder. Do not be embarrassed by praise you have earned. You changed my life, Danny Cole. You changed the future of both our species. As the ceremony continued, other beings approached to speak with them. A young Trill who had been rescued from the mine thanked them both. A merchant from a species Danny didn't recognize asked questions about how the exchange program would work. Even some who had been skeptical before now showed genuine interest in learning about the Vrax. Finally, it was time to board the ships. The human delegation lined up to board the Vrax vessel. It was a massive ship, beautiful and slightly intimidating. Dr. Murphy looked excited. Amy Brooks looked determined. Danny felt nervous but ready. Thraxul's group prepared to board the human transport ship that would take them to Earth. His delegation included Kryn Zara, the doctor who had treated his injuries, several Vrax scholars, and a few warriors who had volunteered to show that the Vrax could be both strong and peaceful. Before boarding, Thraxul carefully lifted the bonsai tree. It had grown noticeably in the weeks he had cared for it. New branches were forming, reaching toward the light. I will take this to Earth. I will place it where all can see it and remember that beautiful things require patience and care. Danny smiled. And I'll find something to bring to your homeworld, a symbol of hope from humanity. They stood together one last time in the station concourse, a giant crystalline being and a young human officer, different in almost every way, yet connected by something stronger than any physical difference. Friendship, understanding, the choice to see beyond fear. The ships launched simultaneously, heading in opposite directions. On Earth, crowds gathered nervously as the Vrax vessel approached. Many humans had never seen beings so large. Fear and excitement mixed in equal measure. When the ship landed and Thraxul emerged carrying his bonsai tree carefully in his forehands, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then something unexpected happened. A small human child, no more than 6 years old, broke free from her parents. The girl, whose name was Sophie, ran forward without fear. She held a small flower, picked from her mother's garden that morning. Security moved to stop her, but Thraxul raised a hand to halt them. His skin glowed with peaceful colors. He knelt down slowly, bringing his massive form to the child's level. Sophie held up the flower, her small hand trembling slightly but her face determined. "Welcome to Earth," Sophie said in a clear voice. "This is for you."